Okay, this is like the third time I've recorded this video because for the first video, somehow I ended up building an entire house and then playing JTO for like 30 minutes. And for the second recording, I forgot to save the audio. So here's the third attempt. Third time's a charm, we can do this. But today I've been feeling very retro. I just want to play a retro game. Look at this. This is so retro. They even got the colors wrong on the legs. That's so retro. These days, I feel like you see all these games using studs and then calling it a retro. I feel like these days, a lot of people equate the word retro to like putting studs everywhere and using like blocky avatars and all that. Which doesn't really make sense when you look at how people actually used to build in the past. Because most people didn't just put studs everywhere and call it a day. One of the things to really notice about these games are that as I said before, they put studs on every side of the block. They put them on instead of inlets on the bottom, they'd be studs. And you can see that they're not perfectly aligned. You can see here they're kind of being cut off because the part isn't a full part, which is really bad to look at. And the second thing is, they're putting studs on a sphere, which it's not really a problem. It's the fact they're putting it on every single side is really stupid. Because when you think about why studs are ever a thing, they're meant to mimic Lego bricks and how they have studs. And so putting a stud on every single side of a part doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because how would you connect this part to another part? It wouldn't work. The reason why studs were used was because they could connect to other parts with like inlets, which is why the universal stud thing was a thing, so that it could connect with any other part, I think. But nowadays, since studs are basically deprecated, they don't really have any use anymore, except for like aesthetic appeal. People try to go for this retro look. I think a valid counter argument is that people weren't always doing that to be retro. I know games like JTO and all that, they use studs not to be retro, it's more like their style and how towers usually look. Because you want to visualize the distance between jumps, so it makes sense that they'd use studs for that. Even like 10 years ago, people were doing that, kind of. Certain games would just put studs everywhere for like a style rather than being retro. I think there's actually a word for it called a retroslop, which is pretty funny. Just put slop on the end of a word you don't like and boom, you got a new word. I feel like this game is a really bad example. Okay, finally back to the part I was gonna talk about. There's no excuse for whatever's going on here. It's like the part is barely big enough for it to be more than one wide, but it's like too big to the point where the stud is clipping off of the side. I feel like there's never really an excuse for that, because what are you doing? How do you manage to do that? Why would you do that? I'm not sure if this post is like a rage bait post, but it's so stupid because you look at their build and there's studs everywhere, they're clipping off the side, and they say that it has 0 rules, so therefore it's better. And when they don't even take into account how it looks, everything's like, you can see here everything's kind of clipping with each other, and they have studs on a part where it doesn't really make sense. And it's not even centered. I just think, how could you look at that and think to yourself that it looks good? I know that the build itself looks pretty good, but it's really disappointing how they put studs everywhere. I feel like, in my opinion, if there weren't any studs on this build, it would look better. And they chose to plaster a stud on every single side, and it fucking sucks. And they say, oh, this ain't rage bait. Shut up. It's just the reason I have a problem with it is because of how fucking stupid it looks. Just take the studs off of the building. You don't need them. This is a really good argument. I feel like when you think of these type of games, one of the biggest offenders is this game. Because as soon as you spawn in, you can see this isn't perfectly centered, which isn't that big of an issue, but this happens, and then you have studs on a cylinder, Somehow the studs aren't even lining up on the cylinder. And every part you look at either has a stud or a weld on it. And it's like, why? I feel like this game would look so much better if it didn't have all that. And then you look here, you have the studs clipping off of the side. It's like, ugh. And I feel like a lot of the times it's not even about being retro. It's more like the look they're trying to go for. They don't really do it properly, so it just doesn't end up looking that good. I feel like there could be a substitute for studs that would have looked good in this situation. Like, I guess, using actual materials, or, I don't know, using anything else. Those bees look so similar to Minecraft bees, what the fuck? Or I guess like Bee Storm Simulator? I thought that was a Minecraft bee when I looked at it. Yeah, as I said before, nowadays studs have been completely deprecated, so the only way you can really add them is by either going in the toolbox and looking up studs. And of course, the first thing you find is a part with a stud on every side, which is not how it worked. People didn't do this all the time, it fucking sucks. Other than that, the only way you can really do it is by typing this. And then boom. And then you go to the bottom surface. Change that to inlets. And then boom. You have an actual part that's studded correctly. I did make a plugin that lets you like paint the surface of a part. Enable it and then you can paint it everywhere. You do universal, put a motor on it too. But since studs are deprecated now, they don't actually serve any functional purpose in normal Studio. Because, for example, like, hinges have been deprecated, so they don't actually... If you try to make a hinge and then attach a part to it, if I go run this in Studio, you will see that it doesn't actually do anything anymore, which is really disappointing. But there is a way to get around this. If you use F3X, then it actually lets you connect the thing on it. You just change that to 0.5. Center it, move it down. And then you'll see it actually does something now. It's kind of off-center, but you get what I mean. What it does is it goes in the part and it makes a rotate instance, which is usually what Studio would do for you, but doesn't do it anymore. And you'll see if I try to put studs on a part and then connect it to another part with studs on it, it won't work anymore. You'll see that they just fall apart if I unanchor them. But if I go in F3X and I do this, then it should work. The thing it's also doing for that is putting a snap instance on the part. But another thing you can do is if you don't want to do that, then you can go into the model and use this plugin that creates joints for you. So you put the snap in between the parts. Okay, future me here. Originally, I was going to go more in detail about like how people built in old Roblox, all that stuff with form factor, but I really don't want this video being 20 minutes long, so I left in the description a guide on how people actually built in old Roblox. The reason why it's on archive is because I don't know why, but the original got taken down, so... Now, one thing people do use nowadays is called Retro Studio for building more classic style builds. I know in Retro Studio, it's like everything's meant to be how it looked back in the day. But the thing is, people building their own builds don't really get anything right. What's also funny is that most of these maps are in 2015. Like this one's 2015, 2015, 2015, 2015, 2015, 2015, everything's 2015. 2015 is not retro, dude. That was like 10 years ago. You don't call it 10 years ago retro. Yeah, sure, you can call it classic, you can call it old, but anything that isn't like 20 years ago isn't really retro in my opinion. Oh look, they have Grow Garden. Let's see if this game does it any better. Okay, the first thing I notice is that everything actually looks better than Grow Garden. There's studs everywhere. It looks like they're covered in smallpox. Like, they got the studs disease. I hope it's not contagious. Guys, I think I caught the virus. Fucking kill me. I might kidnap you. Oh shit. Fuck. They have a paintball gun. Fuck you! Fuck you, bitch! They're definitely gonna suspend me for that, but I need revenge. Get out of my face. These are the fucking TikTok videos that I hate, dude. And then you look in the TikTok comments, and you see these comments. Oh, that's who they actually hate. They hate anyone trying to be different or something, I don't know. At first, I was like kind of agreeing with the whole retroslop avatar thing, but I looked at the TikTok comments and it's people full of hatred. I can't take them seriously. And you see people try to make this argument that people are equating silliness to autism. And it's like, you're making the connection here. They're not trying to be like that. I just think nowadays people find anything to hate on, so they can just hate on people for being different, being gay, being silly, I don't fucking know. And it's so fucking annoying. It's those people on Instagram comments and TikTok comments. They're like 15 years old. They either change their ways when they grow up or just grow up to become a really hateful person. And it just makes me sad how many people share the same negative sentiments for this. It's like, at the end of the day, who gives a fuck? Yeah, originally the video wasn't really gonna end with the whole retroslop avatar thing, but after I saw how hateful people were being with it, I just had to like talk about it. But if you don't give a shit, make sure to dislike the video and report my YouTube page, all that stuff. And have a good day. Goodbye.